All right, friends, we've got J.Crew's hiker boots, J.Crew's mountaineering boots, Alpine boots. I forget the actual name of these. These are from last season, and as you can see, I've not worn them yet. These are really beautiful, interesting boot. They obviously take a lot of inspiration from traditional Italian alpine hiker boots. A lot of people would point to Danner as kind of the overall purveyor of that style boot. They've certainly been the most popular and probably the most consistent maker of said boots. But they didn't invent them. It's just a traditional boot that was designed for alpinists in when mountaineering became a bit more popular in the last few hundred years. But I think Danner, sorry, not Danner, J.Crew. J.Crew's a really interesting place to find boots. Over the last few years, they've had some really interesting options with nice leathers, Vibram soles, Goodyear welted, construction. Very decent components. They're almost always made in China or El Salvador or something like that. They actually do have some of their recent dress shoes have been being made in Spain. They're bench made in Spain. I think those are just higher end. Those will be less on discount. The reason why I even bring up J Crew though is because they'll put on sales that are amazing. The retail prices for all their boots are not worth it. They're $300 or whatever, give or take. And you kind of just go, well, I'll just get a made in USA Danner on sale or literally anything else. I'll get a Fracap or FRACAP, that Italian made hiker boot. I'll just buy that. That's actually they have very similar collars, kind of that lower sort of 4 inch height. And, so overall, it's not a great value. However, as anyone who buys J. Crew at all knows, that you just don't buy J. Crew on full price. You just don't. I mean, at least you do it, wait for 30% off or 40% off. But what is often the case is towards the end of the season or even in the middle of the season, their boots will go into sale and then get an extra 50 or 60% off. So all of a sudden you're getting a really decently made boot with great materials for, $100 to $200. And in that case, I think J. Crew offers a really great value for a boot. Here you've got a almost blacked out boot. If you put on the black laces that they offer, they also offer purple laces if you want to have fun, if you love yourself. I don't love myself that enough. But if you put on, the black laces, it's an almost entirely blacked out boot. And it's real nice. You've got a black foam midsole, obviously Vibram Montagna outsole, stitch down, double row stitch on construction. In this case, you got the black stitching, which I really like. I oftentimes would opt for contrast stitching for white stitching, but just in this case, especially because you're not going to be expecting the neatest stitching, I just think it looks great. Foam, leather padded foam collar, really, really nice. Speed hooks and eyelets, and just a beautiful boot, really. I mean, this is an amazing boot. You could wear this boot every day. It would last you a very long time, presumably. They'd be pretty comfortable, and you'd have no complaints. You've got your semi-gusseted tongue. The leather is decent quality. The leather it's pebbled brown. I'd call it full grain leather. It's real nice. I like the vintage J. Crew branding, kind of from their '90s era. In many ways, these were considered, an archival pattern or whatever the hell. But really, it's just they probably made some kind of hiker boot back in the '90s and early 2000s, and then these are super popular boots, so they brought them back. They made them in a few different colorways, that kind of a tan suede, a brown leather, very similar to this one. I would say this is like a kind of like Red Wings or SB Foot's black oil slick leather, but just less oily. So little less oily, but not at all a dry leather that I would be too concerned about. Yeah, really, really, really decent boot. I remember when I first got into boots, like my main priority was I need a Vibram sole and Goodyear welt construction, or in this case, stitch down. If you gave me these boots or you sold them to me for 100 or 200 bucks, well, I probably wouldn't have paid 200 because I didn't have much money then, but still don't. But I do. I shouldn't. You got to be grateful for what you have. Yeah, we're probably very wealthy compared to most people. All that to say, it, you know, I would spend 300 bucks on a Danner. I wouldn't spend even two on these. But if you get them for around 100 bucks, 125, 150, great value, great boot. You'll be very very happy with these. And I just think they've got an oiled shoulder, beautiful oiled shoulder full grain leather from SB Foot on one of their service boots that retail. They upped J.Crew up their retail for the service boots to like 380 or something hilarious like that, which is like, okay, that's adorable. Does anyone watching this know, like, how do these businesses work? Like a business like J.Crew, where I get they have these crazy retail prices, but most people, I think, wait for the sales, and most people wait for the really good sales. Is it like 10% of their customer will just get the full price stuff, so then they make a bunch of money like that, and then the rest 50% will do when stuff is 50% off, and then what, the last 20% is like me, where we're waiting for the sale, and then an extra 50, 60, 70% off. I don't know, but I don't really understand it. But all that to say, those service boots that J.Crew has, Goodyear welted, really nice leather from SB Foot. Not SB Foot. Did I say SB Foot? I meant CF Stead. All these letters are confusing. CF Stead over in England, really nice Vibram outsole. That boot, when it goes on sale, so it'll go on sale for half off, which is like what, 190, 175, 180. Let's call it 180. And then an extra 50% off, and suddenly your boot is, or however it actually shakes out. But if you get that boot for $175, that's a great boot. It will probably last you at least 10 years, So you suddenly get into really great territory of just really high value, great materials. Where are they made? God only knows. A lot of J.Crew stuff like that, they'll have like some kind of certification or fair trade or whatever the hell, and maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. But all that to say, these are beautiful boots. They're really interesting. They're great. Would I wear them hiking? I don't know. Would you even wear Danner Mountain Lights hiking? I do, but like, I would certainly wear these on light hikes. I don't know if I'd wear them backpacking, but great boot. Really, really nice, timeless, classic design that isn't theirs at all. It's a world design. It's a ancient pattern. Beautiful, beautiful boot. So very, very nice. Again, decent pattern, decent leather, decent to good materials. And there you go. Now, they're made in China. Will this fail? Will something else fail? I don't know. Do I trust their Celastic toe boxes to, that is, there are places where it can fail, but overall, just looking at this boot, I think it's very good material. And I've got also the shoe version of this that I've done a review on, and that I don't wear a ton, but I wear it a bit, and it feels great. Again, how much do I trust the materials and the craftsmanship? I don't know, but pretty good. But people wear much crappier things on long hikes. So yeah, great boot, really nice. I don't know if they'll bring them back this season. I suspect they will, but who knows? But I'm sure you could find a few of these on the used market, worth looking into if you want to try to find a discount on a style boot like this. Also worth looking into is Fracap, our FRACAP. Astroflex or Astroflex out of Italy also made a really nice hiker that I don't think they're still making, but there might be some versions out there. Of course, you've got Alico and Handwag, and the old Red Wing Irish Setters had a kind of a hiking boot. And of course, Danners. The great thing about Danners, they're so plentiful, so you could always find a good deal. If you keep an eye out, you can find a great deal on one of their mountain light boots, either new or close to new. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this, and hope you have a great day.